Hi, my name is Caroline Gaiduma. I am a transformation coach. I'm very passionate about the journey of transformation, about the process that a person becomes the best version, the process through which a person lets go of their limitations, lets go of their limiting patterns, and just embodies their power. That's the process I'm passionate about. And if you're watching this, if you've come across this, then it means that you are doing the work or you have done the work. And when I mean the work, it means that you're in some sort of therapy or you've gone through some level of coaching or personal development or healing work, because those are the kind of people I tend to attract. Now, yeah, you've done the work, you've done the coaching, you've done the healing, but then you probably are standing at a place where you have who you have become here and who you're leaving behind here, and you're somewhere in the middle, and it just feels a bit disorienting. It feels a bit unstable because you have not fully become who you are. It's like you haven't embodied fully who you are, and you have started to live a version of yourself, and so you kind of feel disoriented in that in-between space. So this video is mostly for leaders, executive, change makers, high achievers who have outgrown old patterns but don't yet know how to live in alignment with their evolved identity. This is my story. This is a story of how I became who I am today. And I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of you because your journey has been my journey. About 10 years ago, I was doing very well. I was in corporate, I was achieving, I was succeeding, I was ticking all the boxes. But yet, I felt a deep sense of unfulfillment. I was not happy, I was not fulfilled, I was generally sad and drained and burnt out. And at some point, I became very depressed. And so as I was trying to claw out of the depression, I came across different modalities: transformation coaching, inner child work, shadow work, therapy. I was medicated. I did everything I could to get out of this emotional state. And then I got out, and by the way, this is how I found my purpose, and this is how I became a coach. But then even as I was doing all this work, as I was healing, as I was uncovering these patterns, as I was transforming, I found myself in a place where I had clearly gotten out of a certain sense of self, a certain constriction, contraction, a certain self-loathing state. And now I was in a place where I had a new self-concept, a new inner confidence. I was feeling a bit within my power. I was feeling a bit clear, and I was clearly becoming a new version of myself. But then I found myself in a new challenge because this new version of myself was still existing in the world that I had created, in the work that I was doing, in the relationships I had built, in the profession I was, in the environment that I was living in. I was a new person in an old space. And I think this is what I've read in the scriptures, that you cannot put new wine in old wineskin because it tends to burst. And a lot of you might be in that space where you're like, these relationships don't cut anymore. This environment feels a certain type of way. This work feels a bit constricting because you have become a new, bigger, better person. So what happened to me in my life is that I began to see that aside from changing mentally and emotionally, there's some embodiment, there's some integration that I needed to do so that I can have the courage to fully become the new me that I had become, and begin to shift my external environment. Because a lot of us become new people inside, but then there's something that happens that still stops us from changing the external environment around us to align and to fit with who we are. And so there's a conversation that I needed to have with myself. There's a decision that I needed to make so that I can make the last step. It's called the last mile. And you know, the last mile sometimes is the hardest mile, where you need to make actual changes that reflect your new values, that reflect your new identity. And that is why I'm having this conversation with you today, because to fully embody who you are means that you need to make real life changes. You cannot say that you're a new person, but then your habits don't change. You cannot say you're a new person, but your relationships don't change, your decisions don't change, your conversations don't change. Your external environment needs to begin reflecting your new identity. And that's what integration is all about. There is, however, a cost for integration, because this decision that you make to show up as your new self means that you're investing more energy in your new identity and pulling away your energetic resources from the older self, your older version. And that means that there's going to be some form of emotional exhaustion, because you are used to being emotionally invested in an old version of yourself, maybe a performer, a fixer, an overachiever. And now you've got to move that energetic investment into being present in your new identity, your new state of being. There's also something that is not really spoken about, which is a subtle grief. I experienced that grief, losing versions of me that were working before, that were bringing certain people in my life, that were bringing certain results, certain attention, certain experiences. I had to let those versions of me go, and that came with a certain subtle grief. And that grief can hold you back from being who you have actually become. You can be your highest version just sitting somewhere in your body, afraid of showing up in your life, in your relationships, in your work, because you have not grieved who you used to be. Some relationships are going to be strained. That is a cost. And because when you become your new self, people begin to relate with you differently, because that's not who they are used to dealing with. Even in your leadership style will change. How you lead people, how you bring teams together as an executive, as a leader, will change because you have changed. Do you have the courage? Do you have the tools? Do you have the skills to make these actual changes in your life? That's why I'm here, because that's the next step. You don't need another course. You don't need another book. You just need to step into who you have become and show that, express that in your life, in the various aspects of your life. Today, how will your life look like once you're fully integrated? I have been in this space, and that's a fear. We are afraid of what our life will become if we actually show up as the changed versions of ourselves. But remember, there's a cost if you don't. There's a cost, and usually that's the cost we are paying the most. The cost of being a higher version of yourself and realizing that you have changed and not acting that way. There's a certain sadness and even a depression that comes from holding yourself back. You have this power within you, you have this awareness, you have this insight within you, and you're not stepping out into the world to live it out. You are going to have an internal conflict. And that is a challenge that many of you might be facing right now. So you need to realize that integration is not just about mindset. It's not just about knowing the patterns, becoming aware and stopping there. It's about embodiment. It's about how you feel inside your body and how you show up, the actions that you take. So what I do personally as a coach, as a transformation coach, I help leaders bridge that gap between healing and high performance, between personal growth and personal power. So my work brings together a set of skills, a set of tools that will help you reprogram yourself, that will help you emotionally integrate, that will help you restructure your internal systems and reorganize your nervous system to allow your new identity to feel safe, to feel comfortable within your body. And that helps you lead, love, live from your evolved self. So what is the core truth that I want to share today? That self-belief is not enough. That's the truth. Self-belief isn't enough. It must be expressed in your daily life, in how you lead, how you decide, how you speak, how you show up, how you love. That's where the rubber meets the road. So what do I want you to do today? I want you to reach out to me if you're that person that needs this level of integration, that knows that they have landed on who they have always wanted to be. You have landed on the space of I am enough, I am loved, I am accepted, I am complete, I am powerful, I am loved. You have landed there, but you need that to be your everyday experience. You need to live that out. If that's you, you want to lead from that place, you want to love from that place, you want to speak from that place, you want to your whole life to spring from that place, DM me or click on the link in the comments below where you can book a free clarity session. We'll have a conversation and see how I can support you embody and express that version that you have now become.